What's happening, everybody? JayShockblast here, and man, I am still reveling in the fact that Marvel has acquired Fox, and in the process, they have brought home the X-Men and Fantastic Four. Both groups will soon be available to use in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and furthermore, that should open Marvel Comics up to using them more freely in the video gaming world again. Obviously, we know that they've held back a lot of these characters from many different forms of video games as they were trying to devalue them as they tried to get the characters back in the fold, acquire their rights. It was never a matter of not being allowed to use them because of the cinematic rights. It was always a matter of Marvel Games telling the studios that these are the characters you have access to, and they kind of winged it. I don't know. It always seemed to be in flux. It always seemed to be, one game got it, but the other didn't. But now it doesn't matter because they are all back. There are still a couple characters out there that are off there with Universal and other weird random things, but for the most part, most of these characters are back where they belong, and we should all be able to benefit moving forward. So what I was thinking was, what 10 characters would I love to see TT Games include in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2. Now, there's no guarantee that they are going to bring any X-Men or Fantastic Four over. This is somewhat wishful thinking, and I'm really hoping that they do consider it. And something that needs to be considered, and I mentioned it in my video last week, the expectation should not be free, okay? They announced the season pass, all 10, packs and level packs that are going to be in it, and that is the season pass. That is what we all bought, the season pass, under the presumption of what would be in it. X-Men, Fantastic Four were never included, so they have resources put aside to make those packs, not necessarily anything else. Now, I might be ignorant, but I don't think characters are really that complicated to put together, especially when I think reasonably we don't need any voice acting or voiceovers or anything for these characters. We just want to play as the characters in the game. That's all that's important to us. So with all of that said, I understand they've done thank you packs before, but we should never expect them to do a thank you pack. It should always be a nice little bonus, and if they want to do something like that with a couple free characters, no problem. I want something slightly bigger. I want a character pack that's maybe, 12 X-Men characters and villains, and then maybe 12 Fantastic Four characters or villains. I'm going to do a separate Fantastic Four character video, but for now, these are the top 10 characters from the X-Men franchise that I would love to see in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2. Starting off at number 10, we have Rogue. Rogue is a huge favorite of so many people, and she's not necessarily one for me, but she's never been in a LEGO game before. There are a number of ways that you can depict her. I would love it if they actually used the Avengers kind of version where she's wearing green. That she did after Avengers vs. X-Men, and I think she'd be a great character. How would her powers translate into the game is my curiosity, because obviously she kind of takes her powers from touching other people, absorbing it from other people. So it would be interesting. Obviously she'd be able to fly, so that'd be pretty cool. But, Rogue, I think, would be a huge fan favorite. Somebody that's never been in the game before, and I think that would be pretty awesome. At number 9, we have Onslaught. Onslaught is a massive villain in the X-Men universe, and I don't know, I kind of am tending to shift towards the bad guys here. And I just think a really awesome Big Fig version of Onslaught would be super cool. I'm basically choosing Onslaught instead of Magneto because we have done Magneto before. And while I would certainly not argue with him being in the game again, I think Onslaught is just a cool looking character that I would love to see Lego-fied and see how that goes. So number 9 for me is Onslaught. Then we have number 8, which is a character right out of one of the recent movies, Apocolypse. Another awesome looking character that could be a big fig. I mean, not necessarily has to be like a big fig. Maybe if they made a way to make him look a little bit more Groot size, where he's not necessarily as bulky as a big fig, but he is a little tall. That would be pretty awesome. I think he's a great looking character, and I think he would just be a really awesome character that I think a lot of people would enjoy playing as. He is one of the biggest bad guys in all of the X-Men lore, and I kind of chose him over Mr. Sinister, another character that I certainly wouldn't argue with, but I really think Apocolypse is just a little bit more iconic for me, and I would love to see him involved in the game. At number 7, we have Cable, and Cable is going to be in the new Deadpool 2 movie. It doesn't have to be a Deadpool 2 version of Cable. It can just be our more traditional Cable, but I don't believe Cable was in the first game, and that is one of the reasons why I really would love to see him. I'm trying to steer away from characters that were in the first game, and that's definitely one right there that that I think would be awesome. Now, I don't really necessarily always think that the gun-slinging characters are always the most interesting characters, but I think some teleportation would be pretty cool, and I really feel like that would be a great character to add to the fold. At number 6, another character I do not believe has been in the game before that I think would be a lot of fun to play with, Nightcrawler, a huge fan favorite. And Nightcrawler, he could have like a little bit of a crawling mechanic where he kind of crawls across the place, kind of like Gollum in LEGO Dimensions and the Lord of the Rings games. And he can do some teleportation. He can have some sabers. I really think that it'd be a really fantastic addition to the game. And I know firsthand how popular Nightcrawler is. So I think a lot of people would be very, very happy if they added Nightcrawler to the game. At number 5, I'll be honest, literally every single list I ever see for any Marvel game somehow always includes this character. At number 5, we have Omega Red, notorious Wolverine villain, and just all around an awesome looking character. It could have some cool little whips going on. I mean, Omega Red is far more popular than you would think based on just how little he's been used anytime recently. Unfortunately, I feel like that would work against him because Omega Red has really been... I don't really remember seeing him anytime recently in any of the comics. I'm not going to lie, I haven't really followed the X-Men that closely in the comics the last few years, especially considering they disappeared for a while. But I think this would be a great opportunity to bring him back because, for better or worse, X-Men fans love Omega Red, so I think he'd be a great way to get a great character to bring into the game. At number 4, we have Hope Summers, the mutant messiah herself. She is thought to be the savior of all humanity and mutant kind, or the harbinger of death, if you will. She is the first mutant to be born after Scarlet Witch said no more mutants in the House of M. And she is the adopted daughter of Cable. Abducted daughter of Cable, if you will. So she's an awesome character. Ties to the Phoenix Force, ties to the Summers name, although we don't know who her dad is. That would certainly be an interesting story to flesh out at some point. I think she'd be a great character. I think it would be a little bit different and a character that hasn't been in the game before. So I thought, hey, why not Hope Summers instead of a Jean Grey? Maybe we do Jean Grey, maybe we do Dark Phoenix, all of those. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but let's think outside the box. Let's go with Hope here. So at number 4, Hope Summers. At number 3, actually my top 3 have all been in the game before, but at number 3, it's kind of like maybe even a 3-for-1 special. We're going with Wolverine, and I want classic looking Wolverine with his mask on and everything. I don't like his mask off. He needs to have his iconic mask, and everything. I want him to have just some awesome armor. And I would actually be okay if by using Wolverine, we used both Wolverine and the X-23 version of Wolverine. Laura and Logan, doesn't matter to me. Have them both, and maybe even include Daken. All three of them as kind of like a 3-for-1 special would be fantastic to me. I especially love X-23 in the Wolverine costume. I think that's a great look for her. I have never really been a big fan of mantle shifting. That's not my favorite thing in the world. But with X-23 shifting to Wolverine, I guess it made sense. And it's one of those ones where you can kind of get away with it. I would not really want to see an old man Logan, if I'm being honest. Just boring looking to me. I would rather, your old school classic Wolverine costume. At number 2, again, a character that's been in the game already. He's been in the game, I believe he was his X-Force version. So I'd love to see the X-Men version of Archangel with his, blue and his purplish and his white or, dark blue suit. I think we had the black and silver suit in the first game. Either way, I'm pretty happy. I mean, you can bring either one of them in here. Archangel was one of my favorite characters in the first LEGO Marvel Superheroes game, and that has not changed at all. So I would love to see him back. He was honestly probably at the top of my list of Marvel Heroes Omega characters I would have loved to have seen. So number 2, Archangel. I guess they could do Angel, but I would rather Archangel. He's so much cooler. And then at number 1, it should be no surprise, Deadpool. Now hear me out. I've heard a lot of people, especially TT, say that, oh, Deadpool is too violent a character, but they've done it before. And here's the thing. Yes, there is a rated R version of Deadpool in the movie theaters, but that should not be what defines Deadpool. I think Deadpool has that crossover appeal, and one of the things that some people argued with me about is whether or not they could do like a PG-13 Deadpool movie, and I think they could. And I'm actually like, I want them to do whatever happens naturally. I don't want them to make it rated R for the sake of being rated R. I also don't want them to make it PG-13 for the sake of, being PG-13. What I do think is that you don't have to focus on that aspect of Deadpool to make him interesting in this game, especially when you consider Gwenpool is every bit as violent and murderous as Deadpool himself. If you followed her in the comics, she knows that she's in a comic book so that she doesn't think that any of these characters are real, and she could care less about killing. She will blow up everything for the sake of nothing. So there are plenty of violent characters and just characters that they have had in this game that have done awful things. So kind of picking one of them and saying that's why we can't use the character doesn't seem fairly accurate to me. I don't know. I don't want to say disingenuous, but he's one of them. He is literally one of the top 5 most popular characters in Marvel Comics right now. I mean, once Deadpool 2 comes out, he's going to be right there back at the top, with Spider-Man and anybody else. And again, we don't need voiceovers. Like, you don't... none of that matters. You just want to play as Deadpool. And especially when you consider you didn't unlock him until the extreme end of the game in the first one. Having him now would just go a long way and would be a reason to buy the pack for most people. So what do you guys think? This is my top 10 X-Men... excuse me. X-Men characters that I would love to see make their way over to LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2. Who are your top 10 characters? I would love to hear. Let me know in the comment section below. We'll see ya.